Also going to mute all participants. We do that just for feedback and distraction purposes, so you guys will be muted. We will unmute at the very end where we ask questions. So you guys will get a chance to ask questions at the end, and I'll unmute everyone. Okay, we're going to start. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to GTA's Bidders Conference for Integrated Management Services event number GTA 98000, ERFP 051 2025. We'd like to thank you guys for your interest here in our participation in our solicitation event. And we appreciate you taking the time to be here today. My name is Yolanda Reeder, and I am the issuing officer for this event. Let's just jump right in and take a look at the agenda items for today. After our welcoming remarks and introductions, we'll have conference objective and rules, vision and desired outcome. We'll go through the operating, service, and financial models, an overview of the procurement process. We'll have a brief Jagger demonstration, and we'll end off with some tips, things for you to remember while bidding. Can you guys see the slide?
Nope, I was just getting ready to ask.
I am so sorry. I'm just flying right through. Share. Let's go back so you get the full effect. Welcome slide. Bidders Conference, that's the actual event number. And these are our agenda items. As I said, we'll go through, we've done the welcome remarks, and after the introductions, we'll do the conference objectives and rules, vision and desired outcomes, the operating service and financial models, an overview of the procurement process. We'll have a brief Jagger demonstration. And at the very end, we'll do some things for you guys to remember when you're placing your bid, and the Q&A, of course. So I'll start off with the introductions. Once again, my name is Yolanda Reeder, and I am the issuing officer for this event. I am also a sourcing lifecycle manager here with GTA. I will hand this off to my esteemed colleagues for their introduction that will be participating in the presentation today. Erica, are you there? Can you guys hear us in the room?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, we're just doing. Okay, yeah, there's a little feedback. We're going to do some introductions. We're on the introduction slide. Can you guys see that?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm kicking it off to you, Erica.
All right, can you hear me okay, Yolanda?
I can.
All right. Finally. Hi, I'm Erica Keller. I work for GTA. I'm the program sponsor for this IMS RFP. Yolanda, at this point, you want me to kick it off to the next person, correct? For just for introduction? Okay.
Yes.
Peter.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Peter Blake, and I'm the Director of Contracts and Compliance here at GTA. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. This is Sandra Robinson from Capgemini. I am the Operations Delivery Executive. Nice to be here today.
And I'm Jason Donovan. I'm a Enterprise Architect for Capgemini on this account.
Good afternoon. This is Andrew Klodzinski. I'm with Symbio Ecosystems. We're here working with the state and assisting them in the procurement process.
I'm Rick Ansor. I'm the Director of Finance here with GTA.
Thanks, guys. So just to give you guys some information on what the objective of this conference will be today. Today we'll provide a general overview of the purpose of the procurement and the scope of services. We're going to present a brief demonstration of Jagger, and we'll give you guys, the service providers, the opportunity to ask questions. Just a disclaimer, GTA will not be bound by any oral statement or representation contrary to the written specification of the solicitation. Any revision, clarification, or interpretations pertaining to this solicitation will be in writing and issued by GTA as an addendum. Any changes or interpretation not in an addendum will not legally bind GTA. So, house rules before we get started. So as I mentioned, I'm muting all of the participants, and you guys will be unmuted for the Q&A portion. The only people that will be unmuted are the people that are presenters. And just a reminder, all communications must go through the issuing officer, the single point of contact, that's me. Communication with any other than the issuing officer may result in a disqualification of the proposal. How are we handling questions throughout this conference? We ask that. I see that most of you guys' names are already in, I guess, with the profile when you came in. If your name is there, that's fine. However, make sure you have your full name and your company name along with the email address when you pose a question in the chat. So if your name is already there, you don't need to put your name, but you do need to put your company name and an email address. So we're going to hold all questions to the end. So when you have questions, you place them in the chat. And something about the questions today. All of the questions need to be of an administrative nature. We will not be fielding questions that are technical or financial here in this forum today. So any administrative questions that you have during the conference, again, post it in the chat and the answers will be provided at the very end. And then once we answer all of the questions that are in the chat, we'll go through and just take any other additional questions. And we'll also post these answers to the Q&A board after the conference. And remember, today's answers will be verbal and tentative. That's until we actually submit a written, finalized version on the Q&A board. Okay? Next, we have the vision and desired outcomes, and I'm going to hand off to you, Erica. You're muted.
Yolanda, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Sorry, it took us a second to get off mute. Thank you so much. Again, I am Erica Keller, and for the purpose of this procurement, I am GTA's program sponsor. My role here today is to discuss GTA's desired outcomes for this RFP. So a little history leading up to where we are today. GTA's focus on our outsourcing program had been primarily creating a secure, reliable, and recoverable environment. And while security, availability, stability, all of those things are still requirements that exist in our RFP, they're really more table stakes today. And our primary driver now is to improve our customers' experience with the services we provide. So we believe that that could be done by improving service delivery, evolving our service offerings, and doing so at a cost that is market competitive. So in other words, we are looking for a solution that allows for the flexibility of proactive continuous improvement, including innovation and evolution of service. With the introduction of new technologies, we want a provider that will bring forward ways to optimize service delivery through automation and new and better tools and processes. And of course, we are looking for the most cost-competitive solution based on consumption of service. We will do a deeper dive, as Yolanda indicated, into some of the services and the financials as we go through the presentation. but I just wanted to take a few minutes to kind of just introduce GTA's goals as part of the RFP, and we can move on. So I will turn the next couple of slides over to Sandra Robinson and Jason Donovan to go through our operating model.
Good afternoon. So right now we'll take you through our operating model, and we'll give you the definition of what it is to be a multi-sourcing service integrator and how we run that program here. So first of all, as a multi-sourcing service integrator, we manage each service provider's contracted services and ensure that integration is delivered by a single operating model, which means defined policies, processes, and procedures, the use of integrated tooling, shared SLAs, OLAs, KPIs, and XLAs, delivering one version of truth and one integrated service. The multi-sourcing service integrator is the primary operational integration interface between the client and its IT service providers, and is responsible for service performance as defined by the scope of each provider's agreement. The expectation is to perform all key operational management functions in an integrated and coherent manner. Now we'll take a look at our service integration module, and you'll see at the core of this model the Enterprise IT Service Integration Module. And I will take you through a couple of the components that makes up this enterprise model, if you will. I'm going to start on the right and talk a little bit about each area. First off, we'll start with governance. Governance is very big in this model, and is the framework, the formal framework that we use to provide a structured process to ensure that IT investments support business objectives by effectively managing risks and impacts. The appropriate governance of the service is applied at all levels. Now we'll take a look at location mix, which we provide services to GTA in support of state agencies throughout the state across the 159 counties. Competency model, here we're providing the resources with the right knowledge, skills, and abilities necessary to provide the required levels of services and having the right process with the focus on maturity. We'll also talk a little bit about grade mix, and here having the optimum team structure with the right mixture of levels within tiers to support the service expectations. If we want to talk a little bit about pricing, the MSI does provide invoicing to GTA on behalf of suppliers. For IT services provided, we have a proper chargeback channel for the agencies to use, and we provide those services on behalf of GTA. We do follow the ITIL process model here. We do follow that framework as we run our day-to-day business. If we take a look at the other side, you'll see applications, stakeholders, agencies. The STPs who are supporting this environment do support their own applications. And, from a stakeholder perspective, of course, we do this for our stakeholders, which include first and foremost our clients, the service providers, and the agencies. We do manage projects here as well. The MSI project and program team is dedicated to the successful execution of infrastructure type projects, hardware refresh and software currency type projects, and we also utilize the unified project management methodology to drive agency and multi-vendor projects as well. I'll talk a little bit about the infrastructure. We provide integrated processes and tools for the Service Integration Foundation, and currently we're using the ServiceNow as our service management tool. All of the services providers will integrate into and use the ServiceNow platform. We maintain service management manuals, work instructions, knowledge articles, and other artifacts that document processes and procedures. Each service provider will, of course, support their own infrastructure that is required to provide services to the client. Okay, I think we'll move on to our next slide. Okay, here we wanted to show you a common service integration framework, if you will, that is made up of different components with the business units of the clients being at the top, retained IT services in the middle, service integration just below that, and then the service tower providers below that. So we use common service integration framework to increase customer satisfaction because there is one interface that users are working with. They do not have to go, for example, to different locations or different websites to purchase different items or products or services. We provide a common platform where all of that can be done in one place. Of course, this helps to reduce non-discretionary spending throughout effective cross-tower management and transparency. For example, by providing a common change management process and system, if you will, that the entire enterprise ecosystem will utilize, that prevents each service tower provider from having to go out and purchase their own change management tool. This model also facilitates proactive business planning by consolidating historical performance data with proactive business demand, and this can be used by the client for forward-looking and making business decisions. If you take a look at the bottom of this diagram, you'll also see that we're enabling a plug-and-play supplier model, if you will, through standardized processes and tools to allow quick responses to the changing needs of the business. Okay, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jason to take you through our MSI model.
All right, thank you, Sandra. Next slide, please. All right. This slide shows the MSI model and how the various stakeholders interact. It also shows several of the services, tools, and processes provided by Capgemini. At the bottom are the tower providers who participate in a shared collaborative ecosystem in which they work with each other, Capgemini and GTA to provide services to the state agencies. At the top, GTA provides leadership, strategy, overall contract management, operations governance, and facilitates agency communications via their customer service managers. And in the middle are some of the services and tools that Capgemini is actually providing. After a vendor is selected, Capgemini workstreams will participate in integration sessions with the new vendor, so both parties understand the integration requirements, and that ties back to the SMMs that Sandra mentioned earlier. Now we'll talk about some of the services. As Sandra mentioned, Capgemini provides a service desk to handle calls. We also provide a ticketing system, which is ServiceNow. In addition to ticketing, ServiceNow also handles several core services, such as CMDB, knowledge base, incident problem change management, and as well as some service automations and workflows. Just going around the rest of the slide, other services include tools, training, and integration, service provider transition management, DR coordination, project management, agency communications, governance, service catalog management, financial management or billing, service portfolio and design management, service performance and reporting, service dashboards, and information security management and vendor management. Andrew, over to you.
All right. Thank you very much. Yolanda, can we move up to slide 14, please? Thank you. All right, so the scope of this RFP is integrated managed services. On the left-hand side of the chart, you'll see the IMS scope is primarily in 2 towers, data center and server services, and then end-user compute and video or VDI services. Within DCNS services, we have the data center facility management services. Those include responsibilities for data center facility management and support, equipment management, install, and decommissions and removals, physical security administration, environmental systems management, data center capacity management, media handling, and off-site storage. In the server services, we have server support, application monitoring, tech support, systems management, database management services, hardware refresh and software management, device security, architecture security, middleware management, application packaging and release and deployment, online storage and backup management, and disaster recovery services. We also have identity and access management services. So that's our core identity and access management, end user access requests, end user support requests, identity and access provision and maintenance, privilege ID management, authentication, authorization and accounting, and directory management, messaging and collaboration services, and then we also have cloud broker services as well. So to allow our agencies to self-provision these services, to utilize your cloud solutions, and also the associated responsibilities with audit support of that, analytics and reporting and networking. On EUC and VDI, we have our end user and distributed computing. So that includes our on-site end user compute, operations and tech support, electronic software distribution, end user and distributed computing device management, endpoint device management or device backup and restore services, mobile device management, and then in virtual desktop infrastructure, we have the underlying VDI services, virtual GTA operations, ongoing software support, electronic software distribution, and remote system management. Cross-functional services are those activities for both of those towers that plug in with the GTA Golden Record that Sandra was talking about earlier. So here we're talking about, again, service catalog, getting your services loaded into the service catalogs for our agencies, customers to select. Service levels, that's where we get the one pane of glass for all service levels across the enterprise. It's where we track availability, where we track capacity management, where we have security clearance, where change management is run through that system as well. So the configuration management system, also all information is stored there in the document data store. We also use the incident management system, the problem management system there as well. Yolanda, we can move off to the next slide, please. Okay, one of the documents we gave as part of the RFP is a key personnel document. On the top here, you see these are all the required positions that we have asked you to include in your solution. We've also asked that you have the ability to add additional resources there. We wanted to point out that with these resources, there's a 24-month commitment from when they are assigned to the account. And that with this, we also want an organization chart for your team. So seeing your transition team as well as your steady state run team. And we want to be able to see the clear lines of delegation and the authority and accountability for those services. Next slide, please. We also have a performance model. Here we have service levels, both critical, so those are service levels that would have service level credits associated with them, and then key measurements. So those are other measures that we're looking to have you report against and that we'll measure your services against, but there is no service level credits associated with it. Critical deliverables, we included an attachment of the list of here's our one-time and recurring deliverables for both DCNS, and end user computing. So again, these would, as we work through the procurement process, we'll work on completing those forms and the associated frequency, service level credits associated with those, and associated frequency, whether it's weekly or monthly. Our methodology includes financial credit earn back opportunities. So please review attachment 3.19. We also wanted to point out that GTA has the unilateral right to add, change, or move from a key measurement to a critical, or delete SLAs throughout the term. And that in the event of a service failure, we have SLIPs, service level improvement plans, that methodology that you will need to perform while being within the GTA system. Next slide, please. Was mentioned earlier, integration sessions. So as we move through the procurement process, we'll have sessions where we'll be inviting those bidders that were down selected to participate in clarification sessions. We would also have an integration session. And what we'll have is, it's not just GTA and the respective bidder at the table, but it's also, we bring the MSI in. Or we would have another session where we bring either the managed network provider or managed security provider. And what do we do in these sessions? First, the three objectives here is to confirm that the compatibility of your solution with what we have existing here, and also with where we're looking to go and evolve. We also want to identify gaps and overlaps between solutions. So in the event you have overstepped your responsibilities in reading through our statements of work. So in going through this session, we'll use use cases and say an incident was raised, it's in the system. From this point, we're going to walk through the handoffs between you as a service provider, MSI, and GTA, for example, and walk through how that would all work. So again, this is a great way to identify, oh, I thought you were going to do that, so, oh, I need to add that back to my solution. You can do that in your next response. Or you assume a responsibility that someone else is performing, and you can peel that back. And also, as we go through that and identifying those gaps and overlaps, it gives us then, we'll ask you for an updated response, so this way we're getting a finalized solution and price. Next slide. Financial model, Rick, on to you, sir.
All right, thanks, Andrew. So we just want to take a couple of minutes to take you through some of the financial documents we're asking you guys to fill out from a high level. So this first slide here, these items with the asterisk are those that need to be completed in this original draft. So the pricing bridge, the assumptions tab, volume discount. On the service charge tab, the volumes and units rate, the pass-throughs, transition, transformation, service provider investments, and the rate card. Similar on the EUC side, the pricing bridge, assumptions, volume discount, service charges, the volumes and units rates, pass-through, transition, transformation, service provider investments, rate card, and end user asset details. Next slide, please. So what we're asking for you guys, and you'll see them in the Exhibit 4 documents, is to fill out the blue section on these corresponding tabs. So you're going to be putting in your run charges, which is going to be a combination of the rate or the price that you're proposing in the quantity, which will give you the base charge. Slide, please. So while we're that's fine. Additionally, on the transition charges, we're looking for to be filled out both by deliverable that is being submitted, as well as the underlying detail for what comprises those deliverables. Next. You'll also need to submit a rate card Again, it's this blue section here, and you're gonna provide an hourly rate, a monthly rate, and then anything that exceeds, more than a month, you'll have a 1 to 3 month and a greater than 3 months, rate to complete as well. If you have any questions related to the financial responsibilities that is being provided to who is responsible for what, there is a document that will be provided to you. It's the financial responsibilities matrix that should shed some light on for you as far as which organization, whether it's a service tower provider, GTA, or who is responsible for supporting those particular or providing those particular services. Okay. All right, and Yolanda, I'm going to pass it back to you at this point.
Thanks, Rick. Next, we'll have a brief overview of the procurement process for those that are new to procurement or new to bidding for the government. I'm just going to walk through some key steps in the procurement process for you, the service provider. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. So we have stage one where we're doing the RFP development and release. During this stage, we identify our needs and we develop our scope in procurement, and then we release it for market engagement to you, the service providers. Stage two is where we are now. That's where the bidders conference will take place and all of the Q&A. During the bidders conference, we have the business model and integration overview. And we'll also have a Q&A. Keep in mind that the Q&A actually started when the bid was posted. The bid was posted in August 30th. August 30th. And from that day up until September 20th, you have an opportunity to submit written questions via email or posting it on the Q&A board in Jagger. So you can ask questions at any time via email up until that date. So the Q&A period is that whole entire time the bid is out there till September 20th. Stage three is bid proposal development. This is where you, the service provider, would develop your proposal responses. And you'd also submit that response to GTA prior to October 15th at 4:00 p.m. After the bid proposals are submitted to us, there's a brief administrative review that happens, followed by the evaluation of your proposals. During the evaluation stage, our evaluators would identify strengths and weaknesses for your proposals. And the service providers are then ranked and scored and ranked at that time. Evaluation criteria is comprised of 3 components. We have our mandatory administrative responses, which they're pass-fail basically. And we have technical responses and the financial responses. The technical responses make up 70% of the scored points. Financial would be 30%. The mandatory administrative responses are the responses located in the Jagger system. These are those questions that you may have that you have to certify that you've read and agree, or maybe a yes or no answer. Some of them are narratives, or perhaps you have to download a file and then upload the completed file. These are all in the Jagger system. And once I do the demo, I'll show you where those administrative responses are. Those are pass or fail. They're not score. You either answer the way that we intended you to answer, or you fail the process and you don't even continue. So that's our evaluation criteria. Back to the steps. Step 5 is clarification and integration sessions. Now, Andrew touched on a little of this. This is iterative process where we actually finalize and remove any assumptions that we have. We're refining and aligning what we want, what our needs are, and basically what you've submitted to us in your proposals. During this time, These sessions, the clarification and integration sessions, they're pretty much a two-stage down selection process to the service providers that best meet our goals and objectives for this solicitation. After the evaluations determine who fall into the actual competitive range, we go into the clarification sessions, and GTA would invite selected service providers for discussions, proposal presentations, and clarifications. That all results and culminates to an amended proposal submission. Then we go into the integration sessions, where we're identifying the solution price gaps and overlaps, removing those assumptions and exceptions, and again, getting a revised or amended proposal from the service providers. The final step in the process is our negotiation and award. So during the negotiation, this is where GTA and the service provider will come to agreeable terms. And shortly thereafter, we would award a contract. So this is really high level. Of course, there are steps in between that are minor steps in between, but these are some key steps for you, the service provider, to follow in. And again, this will be posted, so you guys have this to refer back to. Now, section of 4.6 of the RFP document is attachment B. It summarized documents by section that must be returned in the proposal package. Service providers may use this as a checklist to confirm all our required documents that should be included in your proposals. As a reminder that all the proposals must be submitted, all the documents that you're submitting to us must come through the Jagger Sourcing Director system. There should not be files emailed to me that are a part of your package. The whole entire package needs to be input in the Jagger system. And all the electronic files should be submitted, must be Microsoft Office 210 or above. And responses must be provided in their native format, meaning if we are sending you out an Excel file and we're asking for something to be updated in Excel, it shouldn't be returned as a PDF file. It should be in its native format. Service provider feedback. There are two files that we are asking for feedback on, is enclosures 2A and 2B. This is where the service providers are to provide feedback to any standard provision, term, or condition specified in the RFP. Service providers must also submit a red-lined MSA aligned with the proposal document. Service providers should note that GTA expects that the service provider complies with the requirements of the RFP as written, and to price your response accordingly. GTA discourages service providers from indicating that it does not agree or does not comply with a provision, because the service provider is unwilling to price a solution to the defined requirements. So if a service provider fails to note any feedback when its proposal, service provider will not be allowed to request feedback throughout the remainder of the procurement process. So if you are not bringing up at the time when you're submitting your information back to us in your proposal package, that feedback that we're requesting, no feedback will be considered after negotiations or contract award. You need to put the feedback in and submit that. You need to put the feedback in and make sure that's submitted with your proposal. Schedule of events. This one is important. It's good to remember the key dates. I'll highlight a few. Of course, we had posted this on August 30th, 2024. We will be answering the questions. Well, the questions will be submitted. The final day for you guys is 9/20/2024 at 5 p.m. And we'll be answering and posting all of the questions to the Q&A board 10/4/2004, 5 o'clock. And finally, the responses are due to GTA, which is your proposal responses. They're due 10/15/2024. I know that there's a document that we did upload when we changed the date that needs to reflect the current date, which is 10/15. The first document we put out was 10/29, but that was our original date. The revised date is 10/15/2024, 4 o'clock p.m. for those that had questions. The data room access will only be granted to the prime service providers attending this session today. So we'll have a data room and the data room will be set up. Andrew will speak more to this. And you have to complete your NDA in order to get access to the data room. I will pass the data room slide off to you, Andrew.
Thank you, Yolanda. So we will be setting up a data room for you all. We're looking for, just to build on what Yolanda had said there, one representative from a service provider. So, we're not going to be granting data room access for 2 or 3 of one company. If you are partnering with another firm to respond to this RFP, again, it's only to the prime that we're going to be submitting that. So when you're letting us know that, you're going to need to let us know who you're partnering with. But the data room purpose here is that we're going to include artifacts that will help inform the service providers in developing their RFP response. Examples of these could be volumetrics, an asset, our current environment information. And I think within some of the SOWs that we had, there was a list of 6 or so documents that were going to be included. So those, once you request your access for that, we anticipate getting that. And once we get that, that it should take about 2 business days to turn around for you to get that. Also, as we have the Q&A period here, as questions come in that that we need to provide data in order to answer the question, we'll make that data available. We also will be going through a screening process is this information needed for at this point in time in the procurement process? It may be something that you can do with an assumption at this point that we would then provide more information later on in the procurement process. It also goes through a security screening of information before we post it, that we don't want to release security-related information that could come back and harm the state, or if it's proprietary information as well. On the right-hand side, we have a little graphic here that says it's going to be a common data room for all the bidders on that are responding to the RFP. There's going to be some folders where you have just view access of the files, and there may be some other files where you're able to download. And again, that's part of the security screening that we're doing and populating the data room. With that, I'm turning it over to Peter on our structure.
Okay, on this slide, it shows the document structure. On the left side of the screen are the RFP documents. I'm going to focus mostly on the right side of the screen to give you insight on what the final agreement would look like and the components of it. It will consist of 6 parts. One is the MSA, which contains the key terms and conditions. There'll be Exhibit 1 documents. These are the integration documents, the common documents, and how you integrate into the system. The Exhibit 2s are going to be the statement of works and the solution documents and how the work is outlined and governed. Exhibit 3 are going to be the SLA sections where we'll do the measurements of performance. The Exhibit 4 is the pricing and financial documents. I think Rick mentioned some of those that when they come back, they'll eventually become these contract documents. Exhibit 5 is the personnel and the human resources provisions. So that's what the end contract will look like.
So just to add on to what Peter's saying there, when we release the RFP, we're basically releasing our contract for you guys to review as well as respond to. So in looking through the procurement process, we see that this is an efficient way of moving through procurement. You guys understand where we want to be. We're going out mostly with where we think where our positions are versus starting at a very one side, and then we're going to look to negotiate to the middle type of thing. Also want to add on that within the master services agreement, there are a series of attachments like the IRS 1075, the state sexual harassment, just to name a couple. So we need you guys to review all of those and be able to respond that you will comply with those as part of this response. And then on the left-hand side, on the procurement side, if you will, so we had the main document that walked you guys through, this is how the procurement's going to be run, how we're going through our selection process, and had a list of documents. The RFP enclosures, again, this was another portion. So where we, like within Exhibit 2, we have a solution document that we're asking you to respond to all the requirements, whether it's in cross-functional statements of work, the data center and services statement of work, or the EUC statement of work. But we also have asked for an executive summary response. We have asked for the mandatory scored response format where we had I think we're asking for some service provider background and reference information, but we also had some other questions related to transition services and solution. These are not in replace of the solution documents or the transition plan documents that you see within the Exhibit 2 column. They're in addition to. The other thing I want to note, and we were going to bring this up at the end, this GTA has been working over the last week or so, reviewing all the documents we had put out with this RFP. We're looking to release an addendum of RFP documents shortly. In that addendum, we will list out each document that was touched and provide a high-level overview of what was updated so that when you guys receive them, you won't have to do a search to identify what changed from what you have been already reviewing to date. Sorry, sir. Back to Yolanda.
Thank you, Andrew. This is the portion of the presentation where we would walk you through a brief demonstration on how to actually access the Jagger Sourcing Director system. This is the system where you would input your bid. So I'm going to switch off camera and I'm going to pull in another screen where I can show you guys. Now, most of you guys actually should have received an invite to this event, but if you have not received an invite, you can still access the event through the Georgia Procurement Registry. You just simply type in Georgia Procurement Registry and it'll take you to all the open bids, and these are all the bids that for the state of Georgia. And it allows you to search using a keyword search, which I usually use this. It's quicker. And I put it integrated because I know the name of the actual event I'm looking for is Integrated Management Services. And I just hit search and it comes up at the very end of the page. I click on the event and then there are 4 tabs here at the top: event details, offerers conference. It gives you that information, documents, and respond to event. This is where you'd actually respond to the event. I forgot to notice that it also highlights here when the actual event will end. That's important because it gives you like a countdown. So you come into respond to event, and you'd click on this section here where it says click to submit your response. Hopefully it allows me to log in and it doesn't give me any issues. Respond now when you see the event at the bottom. And then you would put in your login credentials here. So I've created an account for myself just for the purposes of being able to log in as a service provider, so you can see exactly how it would look for you guys when you come in the system. Let's see if it allows me in here. Let's try again. For some reason, it takes you to that page and then it asks you to create another account. And then you just close it out and come back in the system. I don't know why that does that. So this is how Jagger looks when you come in to actually present, well, be presented with the information for the proposal, to present your proposal. At the very top, you see there's, yes, I intend to bid. And I'm not going to select that now because I'm just going through this as a test so you guys can see how to navigate in the system. So it tells you here which event you're in. So be sure that you're in the correct event. This is the right event. It's the number that I provided to you in the beginning. And here on the left is the navigational pane. I'm just going to highlight a few things that you need to pay attention to when you're here in Jagger. Remember, I mentioned to you earlier, there were a group of questions that were mandatory administrative responses. These are those questions I was referring to. You have some of the questions here and the prerequisites where you have to certify, check, and sometimes download a file completed and upload. At the very bottom of the page, you see where it says save progress. You want to ensure you're doing that at frequently throughout the time that you're actually submitting your bid or placing your documents and making answers to what we have in the system. Just save your work as you're going. There's also questions here where it says questions. Again, these are a part of those mandatory administrative responses. Under general information, supplier general information, all of these questions should be answered. I'll go through the next screen so you can see that there's 2 pages for this one. Some of them are yes or no, and as I said, some of them are file uploads, but you must ensure that you're answering all of these questions. So the first batch of questions I showed you were the supplier general questions, and the second were mandatory questions. So the mandatory questions, the supplier general information, and the prerequisites are that whole group of administrative mandatory questions. You also have mandatory score. Now, these are the scored questions. The system is a little slow. So these are the score questions. This coupled with the additional questions and responses that we're expecting to see back that Andrew was mentioning, these are all a part of the technical responses that we're asking back. So there's some that are mandatory scored in the system, and then there's some that are included with the package. All of them together make up the total package of what we're expecting to see back. And then there's additional scored questions. For the purposes of this event, we do not have any additional score questions, but if we had some, this is where they'd be. And last but not least, this is our Q&A board. Some of you are already familiar with this because you've put your questions out there and some questions have been answered. But this is where you'd go to ask a question. You just click here, put your question in, and submit your question. The other thing I wanted to highlight for you guys is you notice the green check marks here. along the side of this navigational pane, you want to ensure as you're completing your proposal that you're seeing the green checks show up when you're complete with a section. The system is set up to show you when you're missing certain things from each section. If you don't see a green check, you have to go back and check and see what you missed in that area. So you should see all green checks to ensure that you're ready to submit. Now that's just a brief walkthrough of the system. However, I have on this slide here, I have actually included a link. If you click on this link, which will be a part of this presentation, it'll take you to a very detailed walkthrough of Jagger. If you have questions about how to register, that's there. How to walk through the system and place your bid. It's a much more detailed version of a demonstration of the Jagger system. So in the event that you experience technical issues when you're doing your submission, there's a telephone number that you can reach out to Procurement Help Desk. I would advise calling the number as opposed to sending an email. It's much faster. 404-657-6000 is DOAS's help desk. So if you have any issues with your sign-on, these are the folks that you need to call. If you have any issues in the system with anything that's not performing properly or just technical issues in general, these are the folks that you're going to call. Response tips. These are just things to remind you guys as you're submitting things that are good for you to remember. Check the Jagger system regularly for updates. Don't wait until the last minute to submit proposals. I can't stress this one enough. The system can be slow, and when there's lots of people in the system, it slows it down even more. I would suggest you don't wait till the last day or the last few hours to submit your proposal. I would get it in earlier and just to ensure that you're getting all your documents in. And if you run into a technical issue, you can get it resolved in time. Ensure that all the required materials are included in your proposal. Price everything that is solutioned. Options that are not priced must be clearly indicated in your proposal. Propose real people for your key personnel. Also, ensure that the legal and business work together on feedback. Document all pricing assumptions in attachment 419XA and do a final Q&A of your documents prior to submission. So just to recap, all of the questions that you guys may have should be directed to me. My email is on the screen, and as I said, this will be posted on Jagger. You can come back and grab my email address. It's also in the RFP document. Deadlines for submitting any questions is September 20th. Refer to attachment B, the RFP document, for details on submitting any other questions. All of the answers that you'll hear today will be finalized and posted in Jagger. Responses are due 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, October 15th, 2024. As I mentioned earlier, nothing said here today will alter the RFP requirements unless specifically addressed in addendums. An addendum will be issued, as Andrew said, in a couple of business days, and it'll include all the bidders' conference material, the attendee list, and responses to the questions that we'll have today. That concludes our bidders' conference, and I'm now going to open up the floor for Q&A. Let's see. I don't know how to take the mutes off. Let's see. Wait, participants. Maybe I never put the mute on.
You did, but I think we can all unmute ourselves individually if we need to.
Okay. I guess, do we have any questions in the chat? Let's go through that. We do. We have a question. Please provide 2.19E transition out plan. It was not included in the RFP documents. That is something we are aware of, and that will be included in the amended RFP. Also, enclosure 3 is referenced but not included. Is that supposed to be enclosure 2A? Enclosure 3 was renamed, and that update will be provided as well in the amended RFP. Are those supposed to be attachments? Let's see. Attachments 2.1A, 2.1B, and 2.2 are referenced, but are not included in the RFP. Are those supposed to be attachments 119, 119B, 119.1B, and 122B, and A? We did make some changes to some name changes at the very end, and it needs to be reconciled. So when we upload the amended RFP, we will make all the changes, the name changes to the attachments as well. And yes, 2.1A was in our original name for those attachments that were 219. But you will see the finalized information in our amendment when we do that in a few business days. Enclosure 1A, table of contents, lists section 4, termination, transition out plan, but there is no section 4 in the document. That too we are aware of. We removed some things at the very end. So that will be synced up in the amended version. Will answers be given on a rolling basis, or you hold all answers to 10-4? That's a good question. I'll let Andrew answer that question. We will be entering it on a rolling basis. Did you want to give some more information, Andrew?
Thank you, Yolanda. Yes, we will be answering questions on a rolling basis. We look to get the first set of responses out in the next couple business days, probably early part of next week. And then based on the volume of questions coming in and the amount of information, we will try to get that information out as in a timely basis. And again, we're not going to wait to the last date to post responses.
Thank you. Attachment A references attachment 5.1. There is no attachment 5.1. Again, that falls into some of the revisions we made at the very end. All of the attachments that were not synced with some of the references that were made will all be revised, and it'll all be fixed in our amended version. Amendment 3 appears to be altering the number of required references from 3 to 1. Amendment 3. Which documents does the original text in Amendment 3? Is there an Amendment 3? Come from? Lee, did you mean attachment?
Hi, Yolanda. I can answer that one. Amendment 3 refers to the mandatory question where we are not dropping references, but we are asking for a certification that they have at least one similar managed service contract in the last 5 years. It's mandatory question 211 in Jagger.
Oh, the amendments that we already put through, yes.
Okay, so this is a question that's in Jagger rather than in a document itself. And you're not saying change it from 3 to 1. You're saying still have 3, but make sure that 1 has the specifications that you put in Amendment 3.
Correct. It's a certification that you'll do in Jagger. And then the enclosure is asking for references. That is independent.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, we have Enclosure 1B, Section 2.2 regarding audited financial statements for the past 3 years. If we are not a stock market listed company, can we provide tax returns rather than audited financial statements? That is more of a financial question that we probably should leave and defer that until we answer all the questions and not in this forum for the offerers conference, with the bidders conference. What do you think, Rick?
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you,
No.
Yolanda.
All right.
No, we're not. Oh, okay.
So can GTA clarify the errors in omission coverage clause 18.2.5 in the master contract agreement asking for 25 million for third-party errors in omissions coverage, whereas the RFP main document asks for 5 million? Can we provide insurance with 15 business days upon award? This too, I believe, is a little more than the administrative questions that we would like to ask in this forum, unless someone wants to chime in just with the 25 million third party. I think we'll leave this one because it's a little involved. We'll leave this one to be resolved and answered on the Q&A board. I don't know if you guys agree for contracts.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you, Yolanda.
All right. So who is the current vendor providing their services being requested in the RFP? Did you want to answer that, Erica?
Not at this time, Yolanda.
Okay. We have document 2.191B refers to these appendices, but these are not included. Again, we did realize this. These are documents that we do plan to provide in the data room. So again, you will see this reference removed from the amended version, and we will provide these documents, but it will be provided in the data room. Attachment B, current version, does not include the list shown on the call. It does not, that's correct. But again, it will in the amended version. In the amended version, we will include that list with that checklist that makes it very easy for you guys to go through and check off those mandatory items that we're looking for back in your proposal. It will be added.
Yeah, so spot on there, Yolanda, and we wanted to actually show that to you all today. So at this point, you identify, here's all the documents we know we're going to need to submit to the state, so you can focus on those. And then as we work on releasing that addendum, you'll see, the finalized versions of that. But, we're in, what we have out there, it'll definitely get you headed in the right direction.
And it says, will the new or revised content be clearly marked, redlined or underlined. I think, Andrew, you spoke to that.
Yes, ma'am. So it will not be redlined. We're going to provide you guys a list of here's all the changes that were done in what section for those items.
Please clarify, we did an export of all documents. Should we do a full export again to ensure that we are using the correct amended RFP documents? That is correct. Just, just to restate what Andrew said, you can do an export, but you will be receiving an amended version of all the documents very shortly. So I would suggest you wait until that and you'd actually get an email stating, this event has been amended. And then when you see that, you can go through and download the current version of all the documents so that you have the latest and greatest, if you would. So we're ending right about time that I was expecting for the Q&A to end. Does anyone have any additional questions? Please be reminded that if your question was not asked here in this forum, you have until September 20th to submit your written questions via email to me or post it on the Q&A board using the Q&A template. If we do not have any further questions, I am going to conclude our bidders conference for integrated management services. Once again, I thank you guys for attending and thank you for your interest in our solicitation event. Have a good day, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.